its humble, decaying appearance, Emeka's clippers moved like magic. His face was so precise that they seemed to shimmer in the light. His hands, they said, had a touch so sure it was as if he knew the shape of the hair even before it was cut. He didn't just trim hair, he transformed men. Once they left his chair, something changed about them. Their walk was different, their voice had a new edge, their eyes glowed. It wasn't just the fresh fade, it was confidence, power, charisma. Some claimed their businesses doubled after a cut, others swore they were blessed with good luck, their sick relatives recovering after they returned home. Even the wealthiest men from distant towns with small town barbers found themselves drawn in. The locals, with knowing smiles, called it the Emeka effect, but no one ever asked what that really meant. No one ever questioned it. They didn't want to know, because once they sat in that chair, they were already under the spell. They were already marked. But no one, not even the eager men filling the shop every morning, knew the price. No one saw the ritual. Before every single cut, no matter how eager the customer, Emeka would pause. He would lay his hand on their head, as if to feel the weight of their thoughts, of their soul. Then he would close his eyes as if seeking guidance from an unseen force, his lips moving slowly, almost tenderly. He would whisper something, a chant, a language not spoken by the people of Iwuji, a murmur barely audible to those sitting in his chair, yet powerful, thick, something ancient, something unsettling. Let's say a little prayer, he'd smile, his voice smooth like honey, but his eyes, they were too calm, too empty. And to those who listened closely, those who paid attention beyond the buzz of the clippers and the rustle of the cape, they knew that was no prayer. It was something darker, something older, something alive. Years earlier, Emeka had been a man on the edge, desperate, forgotten, a shadow in his own town. His barbing shop, a small rag shack that once had a promised future, sat empty day after day. Lonely, silent, no customers, no laughter. His dreams, once full of promise, slowly slipped through his fingers like grains of sand. Each evening, he closed the door behind him, his heart heavier than the night before. "I'm a fool," he would mutter to himself, "a fool chasing a dream no one cares about." But that night, everything changed. It was in the deepest solitude of his frustration, when he couldn't stand the thought of going home to the empty walls of his room yet again, that Emeka heard a voice. It wasn't from a radio, it wasn't from any person he knew. It was a voice like a whisper from the darkest corners of his mind, a voice that seemed to come from somewhere, both distant and near. The oracle of Ezioku can give you what you seek. He had never heard of the oracle before, but the voice was clear, unmistakable. It spoke to him with such certainty, such promise, that Emeka felt an old tug in his chest, the kind of pull you feel when you know you've just found a doorway to something unseen, forbidden, powerful. Without thinking, he found himself walking, lost in the depths of the Iwuji forest, the world around him fading into a murky blur. The forest, dark as a pit, swallowed his thoughts. He stumbled on vines and branches, the air thick with the scent of rot. Hours passed, or was it days? Finally, he reached a clearing. There, beneath a twisted ancient tree, stood a figure draped in tattered clothes, his face hidden behind a cracked clay mask, his voice low, resonant. "I've been waiting for you, Emeka," the oracle said, his voice rasping like the wind through dry leaves. The oracle eyes, or what should have been eyes behind the mask, seemed to look right through Emeka, seeing something that he didn't even know was there, a deep emptiness within him. "I can give you what you desire," the oracle continued, his tone smooth, hypnotic. "All you need to do is summon Aferemun, the spirit of vanity, the spirit who feeds on pride, on hair. He will grant you the fame, wealth, customers. He will give you everything you want." A shiver ran through Emeka, but he didn't hesitate. He thought of his barbing shop, empty and forgotten. The thought of how his dreams had waited under the weight of rejection. This was his chance, but there was a catch. Aferemun is no ordinary spirit. He was sealed away long ago, feared for his insatiable hunger. He devours the souls of the arrogant, the vain, the proud. Emeka swallowed. What if I refuse? The oracle's lips twisted into a grin, a cold, cruel grin. Then you will remain a failure, a forgotten man. No one will remember you. In the first time in years, Emeka felt something stir inside him, a cold, hard desire to prove himself, to be seen, no matter. He had nothing left to lose. With a trembling hand, he accepted the guard the oracle handed him, filled with a thick black liquid. The oracle whispered the incantation that would summon the spirits, his voice low and ancient, as if he were speaking to the earth itself. Once you perform the ritual, the oracle warned, you must offer a sacrifice. The spirits will take what it is owed. Emeka nodded, his mind already racing with the possibilities of what he would gain. He didn't care about the price, not anymore. The next day, he invited his childhood friend Chibuzo into his shop for a free haircut. Chibuzo had always been there, always supporting Emeka through the years of failure. Maybe, just maybe, this would change everything. Chibuzo laughed, a bit nervously, as he took the seat, his voice bubbling with excitement. So this is the famous Emeka fade, huh? You got me curious now. Emeka couldn't contain the tension. He was shaking, his hands were clammy, but he forced a smile, sitting behind the chair. He had to get this right. Let's say a little prayer, he said, his voice steady, but something dark lays beneath the words. Chibuzo glanced up, a faint uneasy laugh escaping his lips. Prayer at the barber shop? But Emeka's hand was already on his friend's head, gently pressing, feeling the pulse, the very essence of his soul. He closed his eyes and whispered the incantation, words foreign, ancient, as if he had been born to speak them. The guard, sitting on the counter, paused, and the air grew thick. For a moment, everything stopped. The world held its breath, and then the spirit awoke. A cold chill swept through the room. The mirror flickered, the lights flickered. Emeka's hands felt stronger, surer. He moved faster, more precise than ever before. The cut was perfect, flawless. Chibuzo's reflection in the mirror was too perfect. His face was flawless, his features sharper like a man reborn. But then, his eyes. Chibuzo leaned in closer to the glass. There was something off about his gaze, a hollow emptiness. His reflection didn't seem to reflect him at all. Are you sure this cut is free? Chibuzo asked, his voice shaking. His face smiled. It feels like something else is happening here. But Emeka only smiled back, a deep, unshakable confidence in his eyes. Yes, my friend, it's free. Just enjoy it. As Chibuzo left, Emeka carefully swept the hair clippings into the guard, his hands itching, almost compelled. The spirit hunger was only the beginning. As Emeka sat in the silence of his shop, staring at the guard, now heavy with clippings, his heart pounded. He didn't know it yet, but the price had already been paid, and soon the true cost of his desire would become clear. As the days passed, Emeka's salon transformed into a hub of prosperity. Business boomed, men came from every direction, eager to feel the magic that had made Emeka's clippers famous. People swore by it, some claimed their fortunes grew, others spoke of physical and emotional transformations, as if their souls had been touched by something beyond the earthly plane. The fame spread faster than fire in dry grass. Emeka was no longer the desperate man he had once been, but with every customer, there was a growing unease, a feeling he couldn't shake. Something was off, but he pushed it down. Who would care about the cost when his shop was full and his pockets were heavy? Yet, soon after, the darkness began to seep through. Whispers filled the air. First, there were rumors, then there were deaths. Young men who had sat in his chair, fresh with pride, their faces gleaming after the perfect cut, were found dead in their homes, bald spots unnaturally formed, mad to their heads. The townspeople were afraid to speak openly, but the dark truth was becoming clear. The barber's success came at a terrible price. Some nights, Emeka could hear strange noises in the shop, the scratching of nails, a low growl, something from the shadows. He ignored them. He had learned to drown out the fear. Until one night, the temptation to skip the ritual became too strong. Just once, he thought, maybe I can control it. Maybe the clippers will still work without the chant. But the moment he lifted his clippers, the guard began to pulse, and the air around him thickened like a smoke. A cold, suffocating chill descended on him, and he could feel it. The presence, the hunger. Then came the voice, "You must feed me." It snarted, the tone dripping with malice. The spirit, once distant, now raged, "Or I will feed on you." Emeka trembled. The weight of his choices, his desperation, his sacrifice all came crashing down. He could no longer control the hunger of Aferemun. The spirit had grown stronger. It wanted more hair, more souls, more pride. It wanted the essence of every man who walked through the door. But the price of such power was becoming unbearable. Men were vanishing. The more he served, the more people disappeared. Aferemun's hold on Emeka grew unstoppable. His spirit was no longer his own. He could feel it, the weight of the curse pressing against him. He had traded his soul for his success, and now it was time to pay the price. The villagers began to notice. Ozochi, the herbalist, was the first to put the pieces together. His sharp eyes studied the pattern of the deaths, the correlation between Emeka's cuts and the strange baldness on the men who had died. The rumors of Aferemun's return echoed through the whispers of the town. "This is no blessing," Ozochi said, his voice grave. "It is a curse." The townspeople, dripped with fear, turned to Mama Njideka, the powerful priestess who had long guarded the town against darkness. She knew the old ways, the ancient rituals that could bind evil. Together, the villagers gathered in secret, their hearts filled with both fear and determination. One night, led by Mama Njideka, they stormed Emeka's shop, torches in hand. They marched with rage and resolve, the weight of their ancestral knowledge guiding them. They carried with them the mirror of Umuoka, a sacred artifact said to trap any evil spirit. Emeka stood at the door, his eyes wide with horror. The mirror was ancient and its power was immense, but Aferemun wasn't just any spirit. It had fed on too many. It was too strong. "I gave them to you," Aferemun screamed, his voice echoing like 1,000 voices in unison. "Now you will join them." The spirit lashed out, tendrils of darkness reaching for Emeka. He was helpless, his limbs shook, his thoughts scattered. He wanted to fight back, but it was too late. But Mama Njideka stood firm with a steady voice. She began the incantation. The villagers chanted, their voices raising like a wave, each syllable ringing with ancient power. The mirror of Umuoka gleamed, catching Aferemun's twisted image. With a terrifying shriek, the spirit lunged at the mirror, but it was too powerful. The mirror absorbed it, the reflection of Aferemun twisting into something grotesque before the spirit was sucked inside, trapped forever. The town was free, Emeka was free. As the dust settled and the villagers dispersed, Emeka stood in the ruins of his former shop. The guard was shattered, his chairs were overturned, everything was gone. The fame, the customers, the power. He was left with only ashes and regret. The next day, Emeka found a new place beneath an old mango tree. He set up a simple chair, the wood weathered with time. His clippers were rusted, his hands tired. But he was no longer the man who sought to control fate. Emeka was free, free from the spirit, free from the curse, and most of all, free from the desperation that had once driven him to summon the darkness. Each day, he cut hair without the magic, without the chants. Instead, he whispered real prayers, offering thanks for the gift of life. He prayed not for success or fame, but for peace, for himself, for his town. When new customers came to sit in this chair, they would ask, "Why do you pray before each cut?" Emeka would smile, his eyes distant, as though he were seeing something beyond them, beyond the world around him. His voice would be soft, almost haunting. If only you knew why. The air would grow still, as if the town itself was listening, and Emeka, a man no longer consumed by his past, would return to his work, each cut a quiet reminder of the price that had been paid.